This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
So, first order of business, open time for the public. Ain't no public here. Always welcome, public. And then, I better actually start this Zoom meeting I've invited people to it, just in case. So we're not having a hybrid meeting, we're just inviting some of our members to join virtually. We do have a quorum in the room. And our next order of business is to look at the minutes of October 4th. I did have one edit I want to make. I think I sent this to you, but it's just in the motion. Mm-hmm. It was, where is it? Let me just look at it. Instead of upon approval, it's contingent upon approval. Because upon approval makes it sound like as soon as it's approved, we just give them the money. Mm-hmm. But it's actually just contingent upon.
And can I ask, ignorance of being on the committee the first time. It says, I don't think I put those words originally, but it says request. Do we want to say approve, or what is the right terminology there? It seems like approve is...
What are you talking about?
The motion, instead of saying request, okay. Should it say approve? I think that's what the original motion actually sort of was worded. Approve.
What would you like to change it to?
Instead of request, that we approve.
Approved, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Janet, you would remember that better than any of us probably. Do we usually say request when we're talking about using CPA funds?
I just go from what the motion is,
whatever we said out loud.
Yeah,
okay.
Verbally, and so that I think that's what it should be.
Okay.
I thought I had used the term approve.
That's fine. I'd be happy to
Yeah.
change that. And what was your change?
When it says upon approval, it should be contingent upon approval.
And where is that?
It is part of the same motion.
The first line, after.
Right here. So you could write it in right there where you have space, contingent upon. Because I had that in my notes, and that's what I sent to Ed for the article, so.
Contingent upon, okay.
Just
the word contingent.
Yes, I know, it's a nitpicky thing.
That's fine, that's fine.
Any other edits to the minutes?
No.
We have a motion to approve them as amended?
So moved as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
So
Aye.
you were not here, so you have to abstain, right?
So
No, I don't have to abstain.
He doesn't have to abstain,
I
because
read
we
the
can't
minutes.
vote if he abstains, so.
So
I mean, you can
just
vote,
in
so
case,
you
I'll make the
You
motion.
can, yeah.
If someone else wants a second. And then
There we
it's,
go.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks everyone. Okay, next up we have Mountain Waters Project. So the notes just say promo prior to special town meeting, but there's a few more details just going on. So I figure Mark K has been embedded and embroiled in all the billions of communications going back and forth. Would you like to share with the group sort of the latest?
So the big thing is the select board and Ed are aware that we want this on the special town meeting, which has been set up for December 5th. And the issue of how the language needs to be created for the articles is sort of being sorted out. And so we've gotten some information from Cindy Palmer, who really was leading this, and now she's away for almost a month. And so I'm trying to pick up some pieces, even though I'm new to trying to figure this out. So we think there's have to be an article for the CPA funding of the total, for accepting 2 parcels of land, for the town is accepting to own 2 parcels of land, for co-owning conservation restrictions with Kestrel on 6 other parcels, one of which is an APR rather than a CR. And apparently there's also going to have to be language of accepting the state grant. That one, we need to get wording from Mark.
Yeah, so we're trying to basically parse out how many motions that has to be. We just got a couple confusing emails from Chris that maybe it had to be 1 motion, which I don't think is the case. I'm hoping that Ed and Town Council will be able to figure that out, but Mark also offered to talk to Marla, who used to be the Concom. Because so Kathleen, as I mentioned, is on maternity leave. She's not able to help us with this. The Concom is kind of slim with her members right now. So you said you maybe talked to
So
Marla
I spoke
about
with Ed, first of all, just when coming in. He said he probably is okay with some of this language, but the Concom language specifically.
Okay.
But I'm going to speak with Mark Walmsley. I called him twice. He said, email me back. He'll call me tomorrow. Because I'm sure he does this all the time. He's the Kestrel Land Trust person. Bridget likely is also going on leave for getting married.
Yep.
So So, but she'll be back fairly soon. But, so I think we'll be able to get the wording sorted out, but we need to do that. They're meeting on the 7th of November at Select Board to talk about specific language. But I think we'll have that together, but we need to at least notify the COMCOM to catch them up on where things are going.
Yes. I sort of assumed that was just going smooth, like that the open space was communicating them, but
So
can't never assume anything.
I will pass this around. So we got a update from Mark Walmsley about total acreage and the
Here,
amount of money
share this
going
one
to
too.
different places.
Yeah.
It looks the same. Which actually the total acreage is now 713 acres instead of 660.
The acreage keeps going up. It's great.
And 177 acres will be owned by the town. The rest will be CRs or APRs. 33.8 is APR out of the rest. So it's just a clarification, just so we'll have our PR stuff. I've been attending the open space meetings the last 2 times because they've been leading this project, and we've been sort of just voted on it, the funding part of it. And Cindy Palmer, I think, has been the key person, and she's away for almost a month. So I did develop, and they've sort of they're working up a brochure, a trifold brochure and a poster to go out. This is a draft of a trifold brochure. It's, they're going to modify it, but it sort of gives you an idea if people have ideas about it. Please give input.
Going back to the motion, is it, because we're actually buying properties, it's important in the motion to specify what the particular parcels are? Rather than just saying we're gonna, town's gonna buy 2 parcels and gonna get CRs on several and APR land on several others.
We voted for, I think the way this is my ignorance, but we voted for $420,688 for money towards the Mountain Waters project and got a proposal from them with 10 parcels listed. I don't know if we need to be more
Is
specific.
it from a legal perspective?
I don't think it needs to go in the motion itself, but it might be good for, and I think it's sort of like the education of the community. Even if it doesn't need to be in the motion, people are going to want to know it before they vote. So it'll either be in like the description before
As
the
defined
motion,
by Kestrel or something like that.
or we'll hand out some papers. So,
So, I mean, when it goes to the town, that sort of information will be available to the people voting on it. There's going to be the 4 articles that separate it, that the details out. So your question is a good one. I don't know the answer, but I think probably our vote of, we're just approving the funding, right? We're
Yeah.
not defining the whole project.
But you know what concerns me, and I've never gotten an answer to my question? This is supposed to be contiguous land, and this is not contiguous.
But, no, it's not contiguous. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be contiguous.
it doesn't.
It meets the state.
When we were told about it initially, it was contiguous land.
Well, the big limiting factor, I think, was the state grant, and they accepted this
They accepted
project.
it.
Yeah.
And they gave
I mentioned
1.25
that
million
to-
towards it.
They said what they were concerned about is that it was contiguous with other conservation land, but not necessarily all contiguous
Not
with itself.
necessarily, look at some that are not contiguous, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the big parcel in the northwest is contiguous with a lot of land, and that they're sort of,
Yeah.
that meets their big criteria, and then the other pieces.
As
they
long
got-
as it's been accepted,
like the
who am
anchor.
I?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
anchor,
Yeah.
is my understanding. Again.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't understand the word contiguous.
But I think, as long as it met the state needs for the grant.
Just keep your mouth shut.
They gave them the 120,
Yeah.
they actually gave Southampton $1.25 million.
Yeah, okay.
For our purposes.
So this is current draft of the poster that's going to go out. I don't think it's probably going to be changed too
Are
much.
you guys gonna, so you're attending the open space meeting on the 9th?
Yep.
Is that when this is gonna be finalized, or is it gonna happen over email before that?
Is it not the 9th? Is it 9th?
I mean, it's 6. No, it's the 9th, at 6.
I think it's going to be finalized then, and sort of,
Okay.
that the team there will distribute it, although if you.
Yeah, so
give
once it
other
happens, we'll share that among the group,
Yeah.
and if you all could send these out among all your friendly government contacts, Facebook groups, friends, just anywhere we can get out the information ahead of time, so we can address any questions or concerns before the town meeting, that would be great.
So I think, I especially as a town official, but I think we're all technically town officials, and you need to be careful about how you advocate for certain things politically. So like this says vote yes, I think we can provide informational stuff, but I think
just say take that.
It would behoove us all to review that before we go.
Yeah, can we
posting
say vote
this.
yes? It's a good
Yeah.
question.
Please attend.
I mean, I think the open space committee can do whatever they want.
They're just the same as we are.
They are committee as well.
Well,
That's
But just
interesting.
say, please attend and vote.
I mean, it is for the public purpose. It's not for any of our personal
So
interest.
you can say a yes vote for the 420 will cover 15% of the cost. You don't have to say vote.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that
that
might
might be
be
good.
A yes
appropriate.
vote.
And I could be completely off. It wouldn't be the first time.
It's a really good question, though.
But I think I have some guidance for public officials, how they can interact with, I forget what the wording is even. If I find it, I'll scan it and send it to everybody.
So that's yeah.
Well, but we can, in fact, speak in favor of the project. And Mark, you drafted some awesome Q&As.
So this was meant to go to Open Space Committee, but it's appropriate here also. The last Open Space, they started this discussion about, how they're going to present this and anticipating questions ahead of time.
Mhm.
So I try to put together in one place a first draft of that, and
I love this.
um,
And it's got like
and
suggestions of who should answer
if
potential
you
questions.
have recommendations of how this should be modified, probably send it to me and I'll share it with the Open Space Committee.
Okay.
My own view is that they should be the lead on this, and I'm...
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Historically, we have not been, we've only voted to put projects forward to town meetings, and mostly the applicant is the proponent who
Yeah.
would speak to any questions at town meeting. And it sounds like you, with everybody being absent, you might end up being the
Well,
proponent.
I
at
think
town
actually
meeting?
Cindy Palmer, she's been doing this, and
She
she'll be
will-
back by
She'll
the
be
time.
back.
She'll be back by the time of the town meeting, so.
Okay.
She was glad about
This is
that.
no,
Yeah, it's over a month away, so.
okay.
So she will be probably the major speaker, okay?
Okay.
But we can
my-
certainly answer questions and speak in
My
favor of it.
understanding is that Kestrel is there to answer questions, but is not going to be really presenting. Open Space will lead it. ComCon is probably not going to do much speaking, because I'm not sure who would.
Yeah.
And my view is that we would be speaking to the CPA funding component of it,
Right.
and not the rest of it, unless we were...
So we'd have to be pretty clear on all of the moving parts, which I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to review.
We're going to be so clear. So I'm going to update that memo I've been
That
passing
table
around.
really does include all that.
This one here?
Yeah, it has how much money is going to each parcel, yeah.
You need copies for the notes, right? Do you
No,
retain
have that.
copies
No,
of?
you have that. You have that.
So that has,
Unfortunately, I forgot my reading glasses.
so that has parcel X, so many acres, so
Yeah,
much
right.
CPA money, and whether it's going to be in fee. The only thing that's unclear on here is when it says Soho ComCon, that's actually owned in fee or by the town. And the other ones are, it's being owned by the current landowner with the CR being held.
Gotcha.
And this will also be updated, because there's some things, like you just got the answer today from what's the total cost of protecting all the acres. So we will
And that's
also
a
send
change
out.
from what we heard earlier,
Yeah,
too.
so we'll have updated versions of these as we get closer to the date.
But you're right, we need to be able to speak to that.
We also need, the articles are due Monday.
Yes,
are you all
we're all
aware of
set with that. We sent
I've
all
been
that to Ed.
communicating with Chris about 3 times today, and Ed's CC'd, and I just spoke with Ed coming
Okay.
in. I think there's language for one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he sent the
But that-
initial CPA funding article off to legal like a few weeks ago, but now we're just working on like additional.
I think there's going to be
referrals.
4 articles.
That would make sense, because I know depending on the dollar amount or what you use it for, you sometimes need a 2/3 majority,
Well,
sometimes you
when
need
you
a
buy
simple
land, you have
majority.
to- it's a 2/3.
Yeah.
Thirds,
I
yeah.
don't know if they're going to use 2/3 for the CR, some towns do it, right? But I
That's
don't know
interesting.
if it's required. but-
Copeland and Page should be able to
Yeah,
advise.
Is that our
I
legal
noticed
piece
here,
there?
it says the
Yeah.
project based on the fact most landowners will see their land protected for future generations. Isn't in perpetuity?
Again, this was a first draft, please
I
send
know, I'm not
recommendation.
questioning it, but I know my property
Well, I don't
is in
think,
perpetuity.
I was trying to just think in terms of what a person would say. They're not going to say, I'm protecting from perpetuity.
Being poetic.
But
Well,
I think in terms of how it's working, yes, it's a
Yeah.
permanent
It is
protection.
perpetuity.
Yeah, when you put like an APR, a state
Or
APR on
CR.
stuff,
Or
I don't know if,
Mine
I
is.
know definitely with an APR, or like you put water protection on some of these things, especially if it's state involved, registered with the state, you basically have to go to the legislature to take it out.
If you get like two-thirds vote in
Yeah,
both houses
so
of legislature.
I know that was a major issue when we were rebuilding Glendale Road. If we needed any construction easements on that water department land, it would have taken a literal act of Congress, so we had to modify designs to
This is
not.
like a CR, that it is in perpetuity, and it would have to go before the state legislature to
So,
change it.
if you want to comment on language, this was really sitting down.
I'm not finding
for-
fault, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
for
maybe-
future generations might mean something to somebody else, and in perpetuity might mean to some,
You
Yeah,
can
and
put
that's
in
what-
perpetuity, where's, okay, in
it's the
I actually
second
think
one up.
that's,
And then, who was it? I think it was
I'll put it
Mark
in parentheses.
Walmsley who said these CRs do need to be approved by the state. But does that have to happen before the town?
He-
Oh, yeah.
he
He says,
said
please,
the
no,
language.
any warrant articles will need to be reviewed and approved by the state. I assume that our legal team and Ed are responsible for making sure everything goes
But
to
I
the
think
state when
because it's
needed.
the state grant, they also want approval. So I did CC Ed and Chris with that specific piece of information. I'm assuming it's because of the state grant.
Mhm. Cool. But yeah, in terms of, we may not be able to say, please vote yes, but we can certainly spread information and
You- and
education
and we
about
may
this.
be able to,
Yeah.
I just wanted to caution.
And it would be good
Please
to
vote.
find that out.
Yeah, please
Please vote.
attend and vote.
Yeah.
And then you can say a yes vote will cover 15% of the cost. So you can.
Simple.
There we
If
go.
you're not.
Very elegant
Easy
solution.
peasy.
Sounds good.
No question.
And then,
Okay. Any other questions or concerns about this
You know,
project?
it's a true partnership. Does true mean anything? Just say a partnership.
Again.
It's a true partnership.
Send comments to.
Semantics.
Anything you want. No, I will bring it to the group.
Okay, it's just semantics. I just, what's it, does that mean something, a true?
This was not they
It could be.
modified my
This is
original
at
one and this.
1
one.
o'clock in the morning when you did this.
I think
No,
it was
no,
just,
that
I think
part
it was
was added,
Bridget who,
so-
I remember Bridget said that. She says, so this is a true partnership. And I mean, it sounds convincing.
Well,
Yeah.
again, it was a requirement of the state grant to prove
Yes.
that it's
Is it-
a
is it a
partnership.
requirement- is
It's
it
specifically
terminology?
called
Yes.
the Landscape
Landscape
Partnership
Partnership Grant. And that
So
reminds
that's
me,
part of this rhetoric that's going into it.
on these possible questions, we know that questions about Holyoke Waterworks may come up, possibly from Randall. Just kidding. So I think when people, with the question being what will happen to parcel 4, I think one of the questions might be, are we putting any money into parcel 4? And I think we just want to remind people that even though technically all money is transferable, we're not technically funding any money toward that Holyoke Waterworks parcel. So people can just,
Maybe that
Not
should
worry
be
about it.
defined, what parcel 4 is. I wouldn't know that just right.
Well,
Yeah,
you
so
have to
maybe
look
you
at the
can
map, that's a.
throw some.
Yeah, but
the
doesn't
map.
identify anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be good.
So
We're gonna find
any
our-
comments on this, send it to me and I will send it to you.
Okay, so we'll email
We're trying to
comments.
find our questions and concerns now here, not at the meeting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've seen a simple question derail an article at town meeting. It's
Yeah,
That's
so-
that's why I tried to
We
lay
want to
this out,
question
to
this.
anticipate and.
In fact,
we-
it's a tactic.
Yeah.
You put up
Yeah.
a question, it creates question, and
Yeah.
you end up
Yeah.
tabling the article.
But I think we need to ask our questions amongst us
Yeah, we
here.
can actually read
Yes.
those here tonight before.
And we should also, when we're sending out the promos or whatever we're doing with it, we should encourage people to ask us questions, just so we know what to expect.
So things are moving along, but it's.
You'd rather
Cindy-
find corrections and mistakes here than
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
town meeting. yeah.
Totally.
And Cindy unfortunately has been leading the project and has gone for.
About the decrease in future tax revenue, are the taxes on some of these parcels going to be decreased by this
There
process?
are all Article 65, so the ones that are now owned by the town, I guess.
Would be taken off the
Would be
tax
taken off.
rolls. The ones with the CRs
Probably
could
be
be
the same.
devalued by whatever the concert, if they're, I mean, if
But
they've
if
got a
they're in
conservation.
61
Right,
already,
then it
it's not gonna be
probably wouldn't
significant.
change, yeah.
But the
I
ones
mean,
that are.
just make a blanket statement, we're not going to decrease it, the tax
Yeah.
revenue, when in fact we are going to be decreasing.
So the 177 acres that are going to be bought by the town will no longer be taxed. Yes, but that's probably not, and they're taxed at 60.
Well, I think the price is small, when I'm thinking
Yeah.
about public
Yeah. What's our answer?
We're not gonna get tax revenues off of these parcels.
And I think that turns into like a philosophical argument too, where if you were to develop land and people with school-age children move in, then the cost of education, it's.
It's exactly, there's
Yeah.
a large discussion around.
Does that outstrip what you would get in tax revenue from those parcels?
Yeah, I just see it as a.
And I know people that argue for and against, for and against them.
And I think that's
That
part of this is what the people want for the land, so it doesn't, and it's already in 61,
Yeah.
chapter 61A, or 61A, I'm not sure if it's all A, but it's probably 61B.
I think
A is agriculture.
A is,
You can just say chapter 61.
the other one, recreational.
Okay.
B is agriculture.
The one's forest, anyhow.
Yeah,
But we can just say chapter 61, and so they're already being taxed low, and this is what they want for the land. They want families who own them, want to preserve them, so it's not changing except the ones that are being bought by the town.
I can just see somebody on the microphone raising that question.
This is why we have the government we have.
Yeah.
Is if
Yeah.
enough people want it, we'll get it. People
Just
are
have-
opposed, they will vote no.
Just have a simple answer for that, it's already, somehow have a simple answer.
Yeah, so if you have recommendations on how to build on this, or if we want to talk about individual ones, this is, I think sorting it through in this committee, Open Space Committee, is ahead of time is worth doing.
Will the open space be meeting again before town meeting?
I'll give you the exact
think
date,
you
but
said it was in
early
August, so-
December,
yeah.
specifically to review that.
Okay.
It is the 9th, Thursday, and you couldn't make that.
No, I
Sarah,
can't, but-
but if other people.
I will be there in spirit.
Or send me stuff ahead of time, and I will, share it with the group.
Okay, and then just know that memo I sent out, it has the old acreage, and we just got the updated acreage. So just like hold tight for all of these to be updated and everything to be updated, and we'll get everything all perfect so no one's getting conflicting information. Anything else on this before we move along?
No. Do we have a lot on the agenda? I'm sorry, I didn't check it. Starving.
No, we don't have a lot.
No.
We have one more, well, here's what's left on the agenda. Reviewing CPA projects application, the one we were redrafting, and discuss the option of moving to an annual cycle, which Stuart suggested. Updates from committee liaisons, that could be as short or as long as you want it to be. It's just something that's gonna be like a standing thing on the meeting from now on, and then that's it, pretty much.
Oh, great.
Can you-
Cool.
can you
Then
make
we
it?
Get out of here.
Blood sugars are dropping.
Yes.
Dang, I should have brought some crackers or something.
I had, this is being recorded. I'm not going to editorialize.
Okay.
Being recorded.
Okay, so the CPA projects application that I was updating, we all gave our 2 cents. I created an updated version, and then I brought it to Stuart from the State Coalition for some advice. And his strongest advice was that we move to an annual cycle for reviewing grants. And at first my response was, heck no, we don't do that for a reason. We want to we want to be open and let people apply whenever they can, But he has made a strong pitch for not doing that, and I would like to share that pitch with you and hear
Yeah,
what
I'm
you think.
curious to hear this.
Okay, so let me just find this.
But if we do it, I have been a member for lots of years, if we do it whenever people want to, how do people know that they can come to us? When we have the annual one and we put the brochures out everywhere and everything, people get their act together and submit their proposals and stuff. But if people just say, oh, I can go to CPA anytime, they don't know that.
Yeah.
And we never got just spasmodic people bringing in their applications and proposals. So I don't know, I could go either way, but I think the townspeople need to know that they can bring projects to us at any time, if that's what.
Well, I'm curious what he said, because I see one glaring disadvantage with this project. We would
wouldn't
not
have-
be able to
Yes.
get
That's
this
the
grant.
deadline for a date.
So
Yes.
what did Stuart
So here's
say?
what he said. He said, first, it gives us more control of the process and helps avoid last-minute half-baked ideas. He says, we've seen a lot of communities struggle with rolling applications. Allowing people to submit apps at any time will often lead to the CPC not having enough time to review a project, and when you rush your due diligence work, mistakes happen. In addition, projects that come late often can be controversial or come with a lot of pressure on the CPC to act quickly without sufficient information. Best practice is to have an application and leaves plenty of time for us to do our due diligence. However, I was like, so what about our special town meeting? And he said, here's what you can do. You can include language in the procedures that says, at the discretion of the CPC, if a special town meeting is called for fall, we will consider applications for that meeting if they're submitted, say, 60 days before the special town meeting, as long as the CPC does like a 2/3 vote to accept the app out of cycle. We can actually choose, he said, and you could choose either that you automatically accept any application that comes before 60 days before the town meeting, or that you can take a vote and decide whether you want to accept it. I would say we just automatically accept it. I don't think we need to add yet another barrier if we're already adding this barrier of a schedule, but that's just a detail. And then he said, so I said, okay, what if we said our deadline is January 30th, because that for the annual town meeting, that gives us a few months. And he said, no, even that is too late. You should have your deadline no later than November 1st. January 30th leaves you little time for proper due diligence. It leads to mistakes. You don't ask the right questions. It leads to a, that's fine, let's do it.
State grant cycles don't fit that at all. Just
Yeah.
to be honest.
And we don't have to do exactly what he says. These are just helpful suggestions.
And we've done something similar but completely different in the past, where we have the annual appeal for projects in October, and we rarely get any projects. And so,
Well, the last few years, we've rarely gotten any.
yeah, but we will accept them anytime. I think that really limits.
Yeah, can I
But
suggest
why can't we
language?
do both? Why can't we have an annual
I'm
one
gonna
and say that you're welcome to offer any, like Magic for Mendy?
I'm going to suggest language that, so in the package you put together, that's sort of the application thing, we are giving sort of the rules of the road.
Yeah.
And we can say, the only time we know things will be approved is the spring annual town meeting. If things come off cycle, we may, sometimes they may be considered for a special town meeting in the fall.
Yeah,
And
basically,
that-
we reserve the right to choose to.
And that we request stuff be available 60 days, ahead of time, or whatever time frame we want. But I think if we say that way, they know that they can bring it to us in September, but it may not be approved till May.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
but if
so
we
they
just-
need to know it's dependent upon the town meeting.
So if we just tell them in that thing that they have to fill out, that there's only one time when we know it's going to come to the town for final approval is going to be annual town meeting in the spring. And we can't promise anything more than that. Sometimes there's a,
Yeah.
And that's what I initially had in there,
Yeah.
and that's what Stuart took issue with. But here's what I redrafted very quickly. It said, I wrote deadlines. Completed applications must be submitted by January 30th in order to be considered for that year's annual town meeting. If a special town meeting is called, the CPC will consider proposals submitted at least 60 days before a special town meeting. But is January 30th, that's a lot more than 60 days before the annual town meeting.
I don't think you need to do that. There's some grant cycles that don't fit that state grant. People are looking for matching grant.
Yeah, and while I respect Stuart's reasons for pushing us to do it one time per year, I think this committee also has to have some testicular fortitude to say no to certain projects
Yes.
if we feel like we're being rushed.
Flexibility.
And I have
Yeah.
no such qualms about doing so.
Okay,
Or-
I
or
like that.
saying, come back with more information. or-
Right.
Yeah.
And if we miss a grant cycle, chances are that you're going to, the grants are, very few grants I know of are one and done. They're usually a cycle and you can apply it again next year.
Yeah, and I think we can add something that says, failure to provide sufficient information and backup may result in your project not being funded in that cycle, basically. So we can warn people, like, this is on you to give us everything we need. So that said, do we want to say the deadline is 60 days before either the annual town meeting or the special town meeting? I don't think we want it any less than that, because we need time to at least look
Before
at
a
it.
town meeting.
Yeah, so for annual or special.
A town meeting.
60 days.
The select board probably needs 30 days to.
Select board needs
review
30
it
days,
and-
so that gives
So
us.
if we were to meet once a month, that's 2 meetings.
Maybe even 3.
I can see why he would like it even more. It'd be great to have 3/4 of a year to evaluate a project. But again, I don't, I've seen projects come up at the last minute that are very,
Like the Magic for Mendy,
Yeah,
we
they're-
didn't ask for that and it wasn't a scheduled
They're good
thing.
projects.
It's a wonderful
And she had
project.
done her homework too.
And so if we're just gonna have exceptions all the time, why have a rule?
Let's say we have an.
So I don't know. What do you all think?
I think we should give a guideline for, and then say exceptions will be made. I think it's
How
good to
about- how
push
about
people
prefer?
toward.
How
Yeah.
about prefer they be submitted 60 days before?
And who are we disseminating this information to?
So this will be
Any
on the
applicants.
website. Yeah, this will be on our website, and we can also, Janet, do any type of encouraging people to apply year round. Like that's on us to do our proper promo and say, hey, don't forget we're here. We got money if you want to apply.
We're talking to housing and
Yes.
talking to historical.
Then I think we go with what we've done in the past and ask for, sometime in October, we would ask for our annual appeal for projects. And then we have Stuart's suggested time frame, months and months to evaluate the project. You get to the Maytown meeting and then you're in the construction season anyway. Sure, for a preferred timeline, that works for me.
But in the meantime, we have a wonderful project presented to us.
But I guess what we're saying is we wouldn't preclude ourselves from approving those.
No.
This is just our preference.
We do have guidelines that we have to.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also, yes, and we aren't afraid to say no to a project that we don't have enough information about. And I do think, yeah, we need to just be cautious of that.
So we
Well,
don't,
there
get
are
ourselves
so we
in
don't, so we don't want to be rigid, but we want to be suggestive. Is
We
that-
don't want to lose opportunities.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose
They're
opportunities,
worthwhile.
but we also want to encourage people to give us as much time to review
So
things as
is
possible.
prefer an adequate word?
I think so.
I think so. I think what I'm going to do is sort of just final redraft this, and then for our next meeting, because this obviously doesn't need to be published until the next round, so like May, so it's not a super rush on this. Let me ponder the language here, prefer or highly recommend or something like that, and then I'll bring it back to y'all so you can read through the whole thing and see if you approve it.
Well, I just want to interject. An Eagle Scout came to the CPA a couple years ago, maybe you were there, and wanted $1,000 from us. And Virginia said, that just doesn't fall within our guidelines. We can't do that. But he was hoping to get a little more monetary support for his project. And he's,
Hi.
hello, healthy.
Sorry, I can't manage my schedule. You guys
Just glad to
start
have you
early.
here.
I'm here as a delegate from the open space.
Oh, hello.
Among
And
the many hats I might wear, maybe I shouldn't.
This is
Or
Steve.
maybe I
Do you know
should.
Steve?
I don't really.
Oh.
Hey,
Hi.
Wanna
I don't
introduce
know.
us,
I
Steve?
feel like
Hi,
I've seen you.
Sierra.
Hi, Steve.
Stephen
Sierra.
Johnson.
Stephen. Sierra.
John-
Stephen Johnson.
from
Sierra.
Open
Recently
Space.
elected to the select board and the planning board, and I've served on the open space committee just about since I came to town.
Oh, awesome.
So you're
Wow.
considered a guest
Nice to see
tonight,
you.
then, right?
Yeah.
You're a guest.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would say so.
Sounds good to me.
And I've monitored the very latest emails.
Oh, yes.
I think you're moving in an excellent direction.
Trying to pick up pieces from Cindy's. Her absence is noted.
If everyone can take a deep breath about the decimal points,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the numbers will shake out, in part through negotiations, as
Mhm.
Kestrel has shared. So it is still a bit of a moving target.
So,
I know that from being in the business, not from being in these transactions.
so the one time frame, I'm sorry for going back for the rest of the group, is the 7th, I think. The select board is meeting and they are trying to have all the articles in front of them at that time and vote on the articles. So that's a timeline there. And so as best I can tell, there may be 4 separate articles. One is for the CPA funding. One is for accepting the 2 properties that are in fee, and one is for the CRs, and I'm not sure if there's going to be a separate one for an APR, which one of them is an APR.
Okay.
And then there's one about accepting the state grant.
Accepting the state grant.
So
thing.
we're just making sure that they have the right information to get to the council to get that
Yeah,
done.
and the accepting the state grant one, that might be on open space to check in and make sure, since they're the ones who sort of are pushing the project forward. I mean, I know that's been discussed among Chris and Ed and everyone, but
I think that the questions have been raised and framed well. I think that ultimately, Kestrel, town council, and town moderator.
You're gonna have to figure it
Select
out.
board will say yes.
Yeah.
So I have a call into Mark Walmsley tomorrow. Oh, I should say, I called him twice today, and he was in a meeting. He's going to call me back to make sure that the communication happens with Ed and Select Board about the language.
Right. So Ed's job is to control the legal bills. Now,
Mhm.
the special town meeting, there's a whole bundle of
Yep.
stuff that goes to town council. But as much as the town administrator is in service to us, they are in service to every taxpayer in the community, and it can sometimes be frustrating. So you highlighted a communication issue that really needs to be sharpened up, and the people who really will be current and not 12 hours are Kestrel.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got to make sure the town council
Yep.
executes properly.
Yes.
And so I don't know who mediates that, if they ever get to talk directly.
We have connected them directly, at least Ed and, I don't know if they talk directly to town council, and if so, if not, I think it would be Ed who would mediate between Kestrel and town council. But at least Ed and both people from Kestrel have been connected
Great.
via email. He's getting the most updated information about acreage and details in case any of that needs to be included in any of the language.
And you probably saw the acreage is increased, which is not a bad thing.
So exciting.
I can do the math all different ways. I'm not going to
But going up is better than going down.
Yes.
Well, if Holyoke is actually buying property in the town of Southampton, I think we've got to figure out how to acknowledge that.
Yeah, but
we're not selling that. But
Yeah.
That's not part of the CPA
But
request,
the
though.
CPA funds
So
are.
that's clear right
Yeah.
here. You guys got to pass on that issue.
Yes, and Mark has wrote up these potential questions, and we were thinking about editing that potential question and who's going to answer that question. If people ask about that Holyoke Waterworks parcel, how are we going to share the story? I think what we're going to say is, well, we're not spending any of our town's money on that parcel, so it doesn't matter if we're getting any kind of tax income from Holyoke, because it's, at least for the purposes of this
Yeah.
funding.
And maybe Kestrel would field that question.
Yeah.
So,
I think they
At the special town meeting, our assumption is Kestrel's there to answer questions. The open space is going to sort of be the lead presenter. And since Concom, it really doesn't have, it's dysfunctional right now, and we would primarily be answering questions related to the CPA funding, but we can talk about that at the Open Space Committee. But that seems like it's appropriate that we're real secondary as the CPA funding source, and
Yeah.
I should have seen this coming.
and Cindy's been sort of the lead.
She's terrific.
Yeah.
There's nobody quite like her.
She is. And then what about having our open space, or Cindy, someone is taking care of getting Mark Walmsley and Bridget Likely onto the okay to attend, not resident town meeting situation? They need to be like approved attendees?
Yeah, I think that
Right.
happens at the beginning of the town meeting. You'll ask
Okay,
the
so we don't have to do
moderator,
anything
and
ahead of
so-
time? Okay.
I don't
I can-
believe
They might need to
so.
let the
Somebody
moderator
could-
know ahead of time.
Somebody can field that
Yeah.
question to Robert.
I
think, yeah.
I can speak with Robert.
That'd be great,
Are
thank you.
town meetings open to the public?
They are, but if you're not a
can't
resident,
speak.
you have to
Can't
be
speak.
voted,
Permission to speak.
voted by simple majority to speak.
And they always vote yes, but they just need to do the thing. So just to keep us on the agenda here, I think we were done with the CPA project application thing. I'm gonna make some edits and move on. We've sort of returned to this mountain waters thing. Anything else you wanna add or ask us about mountain waters while you're here?
I'm impressed by the amount of energy and good editing and all that. And I think that the details will also get nailed down, so.
I appreciate your optimism.
I watched a number of towns go through this process, and it really hinges on the local participation. I mean, Kestrel's rolling a boulder up a mountain, really.
It's
doing
amazing.
a dozen simultaneous or
Yeah.
more transactions, and coordinating myriad sources of funding that want to pay for this but not pay for that.
Yeah.
We'll cost share with that as long as somebody else is in. It gets way complicated. Thank God we have a staffed regional land trust. But we are the citizens, and we understand what the local concerns and opportunities are. And so it really does come down to us making the case. I am so new to town that I thought I'd be an advisor to the whole process, but I'll help in whatever way it turns out it needs to be.
You can't keep saying that. You've been here a while.
I know.
You've been here what, 2 years?
Plus, everyone
Now, here's
knows the
the
rule is it's whoever
I
shows
think
up.
it takes
so.
3 generations.
Well, that's the way it used to be.
I have these other official positions, so I always need to be clear which hat I'm wearing, and when, I guess perhaps I might not wear any hats except citizen.
Makes
You're on the
sense.
select board now, aren't you?
I can't deny that, but I don't want to wander into things that are real or perceived conflicts of
But you said
interest.
tonight you're.
So you're here today as a resident. Could you give us your address,
Open
please?
space.
Oh, open space. Okay, we
Not
got
select
that.
board, okay.
Okay.
And still therefore a guest.
Ah, I have you as under the guest.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I will only speak when spoken to.
But I do think that's another point to make about, to the town's people, about the fact that Kestrel is really taking on the bulk of the work of this. We've got other people funding, so even though $420 sounds like a lot, we're leveraging that funding to get a crapload of funding from other people and a crapload of work from other people. And all we need to do is this little part of it. So I think that's another compelling thing to
That's
tell.
honestly the selling point for me as the head cynic in the room. So.
Is that a special position? Are you here
It
today
is.
as head
It
cynic?
is one of my many hats.
Is that a paid position or is it
No.
just required?
Purely volunteer. Just go with what you're good at.
Oh my gosh. So I think that's another fun one. Okay, so Randall's hungry, so we need to keep moving. I had on here updates from committee liaisons. We can skip if we want. We don't have a whole, but if there's anything, so we have Highway and Parks, we have Planning Board, anything going on in your committee's worlds that may be relevant to the CPC? Future projects, priorities, things coming up at town meeting? Anything you want to talk to us about?
I just have a quick one. I see the Magic for Maddie playground is going in.
Nice.
All the parts are there. There's been excavation. There's progress. So that's
Yay.
going forward.
Sweet.
That's so great. That's awesome.
And that's all I have.
Cool.
I believe the liaison from Select Board is Joy,
Yeah.
and we just heard recently that she'll only be participating remotely.
Virtually, yes.
Another baby.
So many babies.
That's good.
And our tax dollars.
Second baby on our committee.
Overpopulation.
Yeah, Kathleen's the same.
This is why we need to conserve, because there's
We
so many
need young
babies coming out.
volunteers.
Yeah, well,
All right.
you know, this will get them.
But yeah, so updates from committee liaisons is going to be a standing
I'm going to
item.
repeat my request from last time because I'm new. I would love to get, intermittent reports from historical and from housing and from open space, just parks, just because I need to know more about what the thoughts are of the needs in those areas.
Yeah, so that's what this is really. It's just like an opportunity for everyone to sort of go around and update. And then if you ever have like specific questions or specific areas you want people to like report on previous CPA projects or.
And can I build on that? When we were talking with Stuart from the Community Preservation Coalition, he had mentioned this idea of having an annual report,
Yeah.
which hopefully will build off of those 4 areas of getting feedback from historical,
Yeah, absolutely.
and sort of turning it into a report that gets reviewed.
Yeah,
So-
and that's going to happen in sort of like the spring, so
Yeah,
we'll be
but-
working
But I
towards
just
that.
want to bring that up as.
And have him come to visit?
No.
No.
This was just, he says almost all the other towns are doing.
It's an annual
report.
plan.
An annual plan, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And you just share it with the town. It's sort of like, and it's not like an official master plan that has to be voted on. It's just the committee's work plan.
Yeah.
Information.
And I think it's a way to get the feedback from housing and put it in words and.
Yeah, and we can also use that as sort of an excuse and opportunity to encourage people to apply by the deadline. And so I talked to Virginia about it. We've never actually had an annual plan before, but I think it doesn't seem like a super heavy lift. It's really just sort of throwing together like what the priorities of our various zones are. And I think it'll just be helpful guidance. It's helpful for transparency, so people know what we're up to. So I think it's worth our small
You can
effort.
talk to Virginia, but we didn't have the annual meeting for, what, the last couple of years or something? Because she felt uncomfortable that we had all these millions of dollars, but every other department was having a hard time. Like, we can't get an assessor, we can't get a fire chief, we can't, with all these other departments don't have money, and we have these millions of dollars sitting there, and she felt uncomfortable bringing to the town, oh, what do you want to do with all this money? You know, so maybe we can talk to Virginia about it, but that's why we didn't have meetings.
Oh, at the annual meeting?
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that's technically a requirement, whereas the plan is more of a suggestion.
I thought it was a requirement, but.
Yeah, it's a requirement, but he said, basically what Stuart said was, generally nobody shows up to it anyway, so you just have to sort of post it. You schedule it for the beginning of a regular CPC meeting. You say, hey, who's here for the annual meeting? No one? Okay, so let's close the annual meeting and let's move on to it. So I think it's sort of a formality, and
Was it titled a hearing or?
yeah, the annual public hearing, and that goes before the
Yeah.
annual plan.
And we do that, we would do that like, what, half an hour early before
Yeah.
our meetings, and then we'd all chit chat, and then.
Yeah, and we can make clear, in terms of, first of all, we're gonna be spending a lot of that money, so hopefully we won't have too much money sitting there. We can also make clear that, you know, this money is reserved for specific things, and if people have questions about it, they can ask us, hey, why is all this money sitting here? And we can say, hey, well, guess what, we created a housing trust, it's gonna go into that.
Yeah, I think people in the town need to be informed about the CPC.
Yeah,
It's a wonderful, wonderful.
yeah, get some more apps out of the deal. Okay, any other business before we schedule our next meeting?
Did you have any other questions about the interaction, open space, and us with regarding the mountain waters?
I will carry your enthusiasm back to the open space.
I'll be there on the 9th, just to.
Thank you, thank you. Are you all set with photography for the brochure?
Well, I'm not, I passed on a first draft and have let go. I
Okay.
actually, my own bias is, we shouldn't do photography. You feel strongly should. I think the map and written stuff, two sides of a trifold,
Okay.
is, because the map needs a whole page, because it's
Yeah.
to get the detail, and doesn't leave room for photography. I think the words become more important than the photography, but that's.
I hate meddling in design. I only asked if you had access to a good photographer in support of the project.
I can do photography if you want.
See, I think at
And-
town meeting, it's worth doing a little song and dance.
Yeah, and a pretty
there'll be-
beautiful picture of like a flowing brook. I mean, that might pull people's emotions a little more than a map.
Yeah, doesn't
Potentially.
need to go too long, so
Yeah.
I'll take that as well back to the open space.
And it could just be it could be one of the handouts at town meeting, but it doesn't necessarily have to be part of this trifold if
Yeah.
it doesn't fit.
Or poster, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Are you a good photographer? Is that what you're
No,
offering?
no.
I think that's what I heard.
But you challenged that it's impossible to get a good picture of Pomeroy Mountain. And while I tend to agree, I think you can get a recognizable and even,
Yeah.
evocative picture
Yeah.
of Pomeroy Mountain.
Love
Love
to see
it.
your pictures.
Yeah, I look
Oh.
forward to your photos, Stephen. that you have
I
offered to
suggest
me.
someone with a real camera go to Middle Road at the right, either sunrise or sunset.
Okay.
Or High
Sunset
Street.
today with the mist was evocative for me. I will.
That's a
High
good view of
Street,
Pomeroy.
High Street has beautiful views.
That's the wrong other direction.
Mount Tom is beautiful.
That's right, down from the top.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
The full moon last week was fantastic. Did you take pictures last week?
No.
No.
Are you the photographer?
No. This is my
So-
camera.
Yeah, right, that's me too.
Someone on
There's some
open
nice
space
pictures
said
of
they
the
would
top
take
of High
pictures.
Street.
Somebody.
Yeah. So if we schedule our next meeting for the first Wednesday in December, that will be after the town meeting. Does anybody take issue with us not meeting again before town meeting? I think we can share information without discussing over email. I can surely send out blocks of text about things, but does anyone really want to meet again before the town meeting?
What day of the week is that?
Town meeting's a Tuesday, and then our meeting would be on Wednesday.
Unless something that changes, and then, like you said, as long as we don't discuss matters, we're fine forwarding new developments.
Yeah.
or
And then if something
factual
comes up,
information.
we can schedule a emergency meeting or whatever. And if anyone wants to be involved in the further planning of this, they can show up to the select board meeting on the 7th and or the open space meeting on the 9th.
So I guess the only other thing is, who do we want speaking from the committee about the CPC issues? I don't know if we need to decide that as a group, but.
At the town
At
meeting?
the special town meeting.
I think usually it would be me as the chair, like, you mean like reads the,
Well, yeah, reads the article and then who's going to be answering questions.
oh, I think we can sit next to each other and
Okay.
say, you get this one,
Okay,
okay, you
that's
get this
fine.
one.
Okay.
So what?
As long as the committee is okay with that.
What is that, the 7th?
Oh, our next meeting would be Wednesday, the 6th. Let me
Okay.
just double check my other calendar.
Greenway's meeting on the
The
7th,
7th.
right, Mark?
Yeah, it's going to be a busy week. Every night of it.
We're
Next
meeting on the
week's a killer.
7th.
Yeah, and it's special
Greenway.
town meetings on the
Yeah.
5th, so.
Okay, 6.
Okay, so the 6th, and are we liking 5:30? Okay.
So special town meeting's the 5th. We're gonna be on the 6th, and Greenway's the 7th.
And I think the 6th will be a light and short meeting. We'll just be celebrating our huge victory from the previous night. And so
Optimism.
I think it will be a not too heavy of a intense thing for that week. Okay, anything else before we close? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.